Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, and we are here to discuss some Super Bowl trailers. We got a little bit of content, some video as the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Philadelphia Eagles 38-35 in a quite wonderful game, despite
Mhm,
what people may think about the referees at the end of that
mhm.
game. But that you heard was from the super producer of this show, Jake Christie. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well. I won 3 out of 4 of my bets, so it was a good game. The only one I lost was the coin toss.
You love to see it. Love to see Jake thriving out here in these streets. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody that if you are a potential supporter of this podcast, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/MC University Pod, where we could get our latest bonus content as we do extra pods. We have the Discord. You can get in there for $3. And if you want to support more, there's the $8 tier that gets you additional things, as Jake has as previously stated on this show. So, listen, appreciate everybody for supporting in the meantime, and we'll keep on going. But first, Jake, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We got
Mhm.
another trailer for it. I think, as opposed to the first trailer, I feel like this one centered a little bit more on Peter Quill
Yeah.
and kind of where he is at this point with Gamora and that whole relationship thing. And I guess before I throw it to you, I'll just say this. How would you feel if somebody that you fell in love with died and then came back as a different version of themselves that didn't like you at all?
I mean, that's a great question, and it is kind of like it's actually like a very common it's more common in fiction than you think. I think like a concept we all think about is what what makes the qualities of someone that we love, right? It's obviously part of it's physical, but obviously it's not all. And what is it? And I think that's kind of what this is about. Like, Peter seems to still love her, but the version of her that she is not the one that fell in love with Peter. And what does that say about the human slash alien condition that that one version of you might fall in love with someone, but another version might not, even though you're the same person? These are interesting questions that, like, obviously I don't expect Guardians 3 to be the treatise on this phenomenon. Once again, it's a very common question asked in fiction, but I'm very interested by it. And the thing I really liked about what this trailer showed is that I think we were talking a lot when the first trailer dropped about whether the movie was going to be about them getting to the new Gamora, and I
Yeah.
like that it seems like that's actually not what it's about, which I'm glad because that felt like kind of I didn't need it. We already know she
Yeah.
exists, and so like I'm excited to see that interplay because I think that it is both a good dramatic conceit, but also a really good comic conceit, as you can tell by the jokes that have come off in the trailer. Now, I will say a thing I heard in the trailer, which I just could tell you were salivating at. I could hear the salivation from miles away when I watched the trailer for the first time. When Peter Quill says, "One last ride."
Yes, one last ride. My goodness gracious, we'll fly off together forever. Oh my
Those are your
gosh.
favorite words in English language. One
I
last ride.
mean, hashtag watch agenda. I let me tell you, Jake. This I think about this film, and the more I think about its concept and what it's going to look like, there is a bit of emotion that rises up just because of the
Mhm,
love of when I first saw Guardians of the Galaxy for the first time, and
mhm,
everything that comes with that, and the way that they've built these characters up throughout all these years, and it's built
mhm,
to the crescendo of Infinity War and losing Gamora and then getting her back, and everything that's happened regarding that,
mhm,
and the way that this story again seems to be set up as a Rocket One,
mhm.
as he was created by the High Evolutionary, and we saw a little bit more of him in this trailer as well. I just think when you build up the whole one last ride thing, James Gunn's last film in the MCU for the time being or forever perhaps, I think all of those things considered, you do feel emotions in talking about it, and just based off of everything that you see in the trailer and things like Adam Warlock show up too. So there's new elements, but also it feels like it's grounded in this sense of familial bond that these characters have with each other. And honestly, you don't need to sell me on the movie, because this is what the MCU is when it's at its best, is because of the fact that you have these characters built up for so long, that you know them, you feel like they're right in their home, right in your home with you, and it's exciting to see how they close this chapter and this version of the team out.
Yeah, and I think that they're playing on that heavy in the trailer, as they should, because I've always been a proponent of like the characters or why people show up to the MCU movies. I think that um when the movies don't work as well, I think, or when they unsuccessfully try to introduce new characters that people don't find compelling, I think that that's why I roll my eyes at a lot of the criticism of the MCU, which is often the actual criticisms are fair when like people criticize a CGI thing or like something being too basic. It's like you're missing
Mhm.
why people like it. People like it because they really like these characters and they like the way they interact, etc., etc. And so I think that them selling the rocket part, but also I think that there's obviously hints about Drax.
Right.
We know that Batista, he said he's done. So either he's gonna die or go out into the sunset. Um, and so I think that like because we don't know who's gonna die, who's gonna live, what the team's gonna look like, whether there will be a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4. I think
Mhm.
that those all together make the movie actually pretty easy to sell. Like we actually
Yeah.
don't need that much about the other stuff because it's like the Guardians are on another journey that they might not all come back from. I don't give a shit who they're fighting. Like it's just okay. That's I'm already in.
Yeah, I think that's perfect because I mean, I think something as we discussed last week with Quantum Mania and the fact that it leads to something else and
Hmm.
it's a part of something else bigger and
Hmm.
grander. This is contained, it feels more
Hmm.
contained
Hmm.
within its own thing and structure, which kind of allows you to be in the moment
Hmm.
of that movie way more than most MCU properties these days, which by the way, I'm not complaining about. But I think at the same time, it's refreshing and a little bit of a change of pace here to get something that you feel like a finality. It reminds you of kind of what Endgame was to a degree for obviously Tony Stark and everything that happened with him. But in this instance, as we get these characters kind of at the end of their this initial run, yeah, you I just think about everything that we have seen from this group, how much fun, how emotional that this has been, this run with these characters, and I feel very excited and a little there's a little hint of sadness in me too because I know I'm going to miss that camaraderie within the team to a degree, but I'm also excited to see like Rocket being center stage is
Hmm.
great because of what Bradley Cooper has done with the character and just what they've how they've written the
Hmm.
character overall throughout his run. Seeing buffed up Groot is great
Hmm.
for me. I'm excited for that, and yeah, Adam Warlock, just from the example of seeing another super powerful character make their way into the MCU, I think just from a comic book fan perspective, you have all of the elements that make me feel really good about what this movie is setting up to be. So, I mean, in regards to what we see in the trailer, I mean, I got to be honest with you, like it's cool to see the trailer and stuff like that, but it's one of those things that it didn't really. I'm at this point where I'm like, I'm ready. Like, I know
Yeah.
it's still a couple of months away, but I know it's something that I don't need to be hyped for because I'm already way hyped.
Yeah, and the good thing too about it, because people a lot of times will criticize Marvel's trailers, will be like, "Oh my god, they basically gave the whole movie away." And the thing about them is they never do. Like Marvel's actually
Yeah.
really good at making trailers, and so like I actually have basically no idea what is going to happen in this movie. And I think that, like I said, I think that they know what they're selling. They know that they don't need to sell the
Hmm.
big bad. We get more of the high evolutionary in this, but like not a ton
Just
of.
a nice little teensy little taste. Like
Yeah,
not
we don't
even
get a ton of Adam
anything
Warlock.
substantial.
I think that there's a lot that they don't need to give us. What it reminds me of, honestly, a little bit is like when the trailers for Avatar 2 came out, a lot of them were just saying, "Go back to Pandora." They didn't need to say what the story was about. It was like,
Yeah.
"You're gonna see this movie because you want to go back to Pandora, and we're gonna see Guardians 3 because we want to see the Guardians again." Like, I think that they're very savvy, and the fact that they're going for that with the marketing excites me because it obviously shows that they know that it's not just the marketing that knows that. James Gunn obviously knows that. James Gunn knows that people just want to be with the Guardians, and so like as much time as we can get with them, I'll be happy with, and I'm sure we'll get a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's one of those things where as just kind of being in space again too. I think that's cool. Like we've only seen that really with Thor for the most part over the last couple of years, and it'll be nice to be traversing the galaxy once again. So I mean, just as far as I think the one thing I'll say plot wise that seems interesting is that Adam Warlock is in direct conflict with the Guardians overall, seemingly. So why and what happens with that should be a lot of fun. In terms of the fighting, I see him going head to head with Drax. Hopefully that's not how Drax meets his maybe perhaps end. I'm curious about that, but yeah, man, it seems like this will be the movie of the spring, uh almost their own version of Endgame in a sense as they kind of do their reset. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have any other highlights of this trailer, um, if you have anything, do you have anything else?
No, that's it. I'm just excited. And yeah, I mean, love the "It's time to face the music." Great tagline. Raised whoever
Hmm.
came up with that, but that's all I got.
Yeah, it should be fun. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in May. And the other trailer that we wanted to focus on here is a movie that's been under heavy, I wouldn't necessarily say criticism per se, but it's just the titular character and the main character of this movie, Ezra Miller, has been under a lot of fire, a huge amount of fire, and so The Flash is coming to theaters in June. We finally got a trailer. It feels like this movie's been done forever, but there's
Yeah.
just been so many problems
Well, it's been
with
done and then it's been undone and then undone and
right.
undone. Um, yeah, I'm excited. I think the trailer's obviously very interesting. I think that uh, I'm excited to see the story. Obviously, there is a question of like, how is this multiverse story? Like there's a question of is it going to feel original or is it going to feel like No Way Home but with Batman? Honestly, is obviously the question.
It was mentioned in our Discord. A couple
Yeah.
of people said that as well. So I found that interesting that people took that.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know the Flashpoint story, and I know that's it's one of your favorite comic book runs, but
Yes.
the thing that I'm interested to see in the actual movie, because they actually front load a lot of the Batman stuff because they know what they're selling and they know that the actor at the center of the frame is a criminal, and they don't want them to be like the focus. And so I think I understand why they did all that stuff with the Batman, but I am still not completely sold on Ezra Miller as Barry Allen as a character I wanna spend a whole movie with, and that is a thing that I don't think I'll ever get over, and I don't think
Yeah.
the movie doesn't necessarily need to fix that problem in order to be enjoyable. There are plenty of movies with leads that I don't particularly like that I enjoy, but I think that that is a thing that I'm still have open. I'm more excited for the movie than I saw the trailer, just because I think that, it seems like they have some interesting ideas about the multiverse that haven't necessarily been explored. Specifically, the stuff where there's the two Barrys the whole time. I think there's some hijinks they can get up to. Michael Keaton as Batman is bittersweet because it's fun to see, but it's also like you can just tell that they had to crop the gun out of the frame that they were holding to his head to make him say the lines. That's rude, but like I think that is kind of like it's like the thing that I think made No Way Home magical is that it seemed like Toby and Andrew really wanted to be there, and I'm just
Yeah.
skeptical that Michael Keaton wanted to be there, and I'm sure he might have been. Who's to say? But I think that I do actually I want to see how much of their fastballs the Batmen are playing with, because as we know, uh, Andrew Garfield came in No Way Home and he threw an immaculate inning in his relief work, 9
Yes.
pitches, 9 strikes, and so like I'm remaining open to it. The thing, of course, because I do this podcast and because I go to the movies twice a month at least, I was always going to see it, and I'm more excited
Right.
now. But I'm also not. There's some people I still like. Oh shit, this looks like it's gonna be great, and I'm like, it looks like it'll be good, great. I'm still holding reservations.
I'll say this: it was an impressive first trailer for something that I
Yeah,
didn't have a lot of high expectations for. I I I really like the Flashpoint elements with a twist on it. For those who don't know, Flashpoint is a comic book run where Barry runs back into time because his mother was killed when he was younger, and in this instance, he gets to a point where he's visiting her grave, and he just feels he misses her. He wants her back in his life, so he runs back in time and saves his mom. And then because he saves his mom, he creates a terrible reality in which he never becomes the Flash. The Justice League was never formed. Uh, Superman, when he land when Kal-El lands on Earth, he gets captured by the government and held in a facility with Red Sun. So he never kind of grows. He's like this really skinny weakling version of himself. Uh, Batman is not Bruce Wayne; it's Thomas Wayne, the father, as Bruce is the one who dies in the alley, and his mother and father live in that instance. So there's a lot of different things going. It's an incredibly fascinating look at what would you do if you had the opportunity to save a loved one, that and if you had the power to do that, but at the same time, if and when you do that, you created almost irreparable damage to reality overall. And I think it's a great look at that. It's a very like emotional arc too for Batman. I won't give away too much because I think like for people who are comic book readers and actually want to read it, I would read Flashpoint. I really enjoyed it. I actually think the animated movie is awesome too. They kind of hit kind of the same beats. It looks like based off of what this trailer did, it's a little different as opposed to them rescuing Superman, they're rescuing Supergirl, and that should be interesting. I want to see what that looks like. The whole Batman, Michael Keaton. It seems like they was making that CGI do some overtime with the way he was whooping ass in that trailer. But the bat suit looks awesome. It seems like they have a good mix of everything that they're trying to do in terms of as opposed to in the books Aquaman and Wonder Woman warring and destroying the world, we're recreating the Man of Steel where Zod comes to Earth and tries to take over and there's no Superman around. There's really no heroes around. So I like what the story seems to look like, and and I know James Gunn is in the tank to a degree because it's his studio that he's running now, but he called it one of the best superhero movies of all time. So I don't think he says that. I don't think he would
No.
say that if he didn't feel strongly about it.
And it's also one of those
But
things where I think a lot of people are
yeah,
nervous about it because of the reshoots and the delays and stuff. And as I've said a
yeah,
million times before, uh, people blame reshoots for movies being bad when they're bad. Uh, I always use that as an example, but the very good, universally beloved, basically film Rogue One, a Star Wars story, almost all of it was reshot by a different director, and it was scrambled to put together. And you know why no one complains about that? Because it worked. So I think that there is a chance that all the reshoots made the movie better. Producers don't do reshoots just for their health; they are trying to make the movie better generally.
yeah, and I think the point that you made about Ezra Miller is a completely a fair one. It is very difficult, and I say this without the idea of all of the criminal activity that they took part in. Honestly, before that, all of that, when I was watching him in Justice League and Batman versus Superman and whatever that he's appeared in so far, I don't know. I just wasn't sold on them. I really wasn't. It wasn't something that I felt like was compelling. So I guess we'll see what this story with multiple versions of Barry is. We'll see what
Yeah.
what that looks like to me. I think this is one of those things where you can have a good story and it could all be pretty good, but as you can see, the marketing is heavily focused on Batman, the Batmen, and
Yeah.
Supergirl to a degree.
Yeah.
So I think that is where this press run is going to be
Yes.
fascinating.
And I think the reason why I bring up the likability of Ezra as a performer is because the story you describe in Flashpoint, which I knew the general bits because obviously that's what the trailer is. And then
Mhm.
whenever you're telling a story where the main character screws something up, trying to do something they think is noble, you have to be on the main character's side enough where you are willing to
Mhm.
root for them. Spider-Man No Way Home only works because we like Peter Parker and we think he's doing a good thing trying to help his friends, right? And
Yep.
so when that is not the case, if Barry Allen in this movie is not super likable, if the audience is not really with Barry at all, then that creates the problem where you find yourself an hour into the movie when everything's going to shit, thinking, "Yeah, what else did you expect, idiot?" Whereas in No Way Home, that's not what you're thinking. Obviously, you're like, "Man, you made a hard mistake," but like that, you need to sympathize with the main character to make that decision. And I think the fact of the
Mhm.
matter is, we've seen a lot of stories. It's a pretty well done story of someone trying to go back in time to save a loved one and it goes wrong. Like that is actually like that's
Yeah,
not new territory. And so I think that like it's actually a higher degree of difficulty than it might have been 7 movies ago where they did it. We're like, you really
right.
need to convince me that Barry needs to do this. It can't be like and so I'm a little bit wary about it just because I'm like, I feel like at this point you almost want to say to Barry Allen, like, "Hey Barry, have you not seen any movies? Because in movies when you do this, it goes bad." Um,
Yeah, you know what's funny about that? I was thinking about this too, and I think part of it is because of how DC has, to this point, has fouled everything up. If it were me and if I were running that studio, I would not have done Flashpoint as for your first
yeah.
film, because this is the other thing. The character is not well established
Mhm.
enough to where, to your point, like a Peter
Mhm.
Parker, Tom Holland that we've seen for years and years and years, kind of doing this character, and we have a sympathy and an empathy for the character when it goes through stuff. We've been making jokes about, I mean, I've been making jokes about how the Flash runs. I've been making jokes generally about how these movies aren't that
Mhm.
good, generally speaking. So this is why it's ambitious in the sense that for the solo film
Mhm.
for the Flash, that they're doing one of the biggest
Yeah.
stories in the Flash's history, and that's cool. But that feels like it felt like initially to me something that you would build up
Mhm.
towards, as opposed to something that you start off right off the bat. So to your point, as far as like where that feeling is, I don't know. Like if that doesn't land, it is gonna hurt the movie, because the point of the movie is the empathy that you feel for Barry, and then you realize when he goes up against another villain. I don't know if it's Reverse Flash in this or Black Flash, but just another kind of extra version of him that kind of points out to him, "Hey, this is on you."
Mhm.
And like you said, you want to feel empathy and sympathy for the character. I don't know if I'm gonna
Mhm.
feel that.
Yep.
I guess we'll find out.
Also, Barry Allen sounds like the name of like a 6'5" D tackle in the 70s who wore like one of those like those face masks with the big thing down the middle. Anyway. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
not a skinny dude who runs
No,
fast.
absolutely not. But yeah, we'll see. But I liked what I saw. It made me more excited for the movie, but I'm also kind of just like there is obviously thing it's just like Ezra Miller is not just a criminal. Ezra Miller is like deeply a criminal. And so it's
Some nasty stuff,
yeah, and
man.
so, like, I honestly hope that they don't even put them on the press tour at all, because like, I actually don't think you need Ezra to do press in order to sell the movie. Just be like, Michael Keaton as Batman is in it, it's a multiverse story, eat up the slop, you pigs. Like, I actually don't think you need I don't need to see Ezra Miller on The Tonight Show chopping it up with Jimmy Fallon. Like, I don't think that that's good or it's not worth it for any studio to do that, and I think they're gonna do it.
Oh my god. Like I said, this press run is gonna be fascinating to see how they navigate it. Just on that alone. So the Flash, June, I believe June 16th. It this show we'll visit it. We will definitely take a look and see what the movie brings in. We'll see if it has any effects on the DCU, as it seems like James Gunn has hinted that there is some elements of this film that will reset everything to allow the DCU to come in and do what they're going to do following this film. So, from that standpoint, it should be interesting. A quick thing before we get out of here, I could not believe on Friday, and they did this with the last trailer, but when Fast X dropped their trailer, I said, 4 minutes. Don't tell me they're going to do this again. And they did it again in all of its glory. I just, it is amazing again how Dwayne The Rock Johnson screwed this up so royally, because how would you not want to be a part of that? That it looked amazing. Everybody's in it. Everybody and their mama is in
Uh-huh.
that movie. It's a DJ Khaled record.
And yeah, just great stuff. Once again, these are trailer editors knowing what to give us. What we want is, we want to know what the story is, but we mostly just want cuts to characters we know. It's like, oh, they're in it. Oh, they're in it. Oh, wow, they're in it. Like, that's what we want. And I think that I put it on Twitter, and I keep sharing this fact because it's so funny to me, that of the 21 different Best Actress winners in the 21st century, 3 of them, or 14.2%, are in Fast X. They have 3 different Best Actress Academy Award winners in this century
Oh
alone
my
in the movie.
god.
You can't beat it. No
That's
one
it.
else. No
Yeah.
one else is making boss calls like Vin. He got Brittany Griner out of Russia. He got Brie Larson in Fast and X. I mean, he's making these boss calls.
Man, you got Jason Momoa licking a bloody knife in this. My God, what we are cooking with fish grease and any type of grease you ever want to think of. Holy shit!
And they're like, oh, remember that like anonymous drug lord character that they rob in Fast 5? Guess what? He's important now. This is his son. No one is doing it like Vin. That's the thing. Where he said it's like Tolkien.
That's
He
all.
compared himself
Yeah.
to Tolkien, and I'm like, you're goddamn right, you did.
Oh my God.
He had fellowship.
Jason's-
Tolkien had fellowship. He's got family. Sorry.
You got Shaw and Han teaming up for a little buddy cop situation. Oh my goodness, it's all
And
over
the
place.
Letty Cypher fight that we see at the end.
Oh, so much happening in that. Yeah, Fast X, man.
Yeah.
In a few months, we're making our way through the Fast and the Furious
Yes,
catalog.
we'll be a little bit
We'll
behind.
try and be
We'll be behind, unfortunately. But I don't care.
Yes.
It's exciting. That's May 19th, I believe. And I will be there. And yeah, that's exciting. The other trailer that dropped is a trailer for Air, the Ben Affleck movie, which is just for me, honestly, a movie directed by Ben Affleck, starring Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, about like business negotiations. Like, thank you very much. People are like, oh, they're making a movie about Nike, and that's just about the business people, and it's like, they are, and I understand why that's a little bit problematic, but let me have this. I love this shit. I love inner workings of companies and movies. And yeah, man, just some really incredible stuff for Ben Affleck. And the Dunkin' Donuts commercial. Just a great day for Ben. I want to shout him out. People making fun of him at the Grammys, but he's a 50-year-old white dude. He doesn't belong there. What do you mean? Like, he's
Why
exactly.
agenda? He wanted to sleep. He wanted to sleep. We know he wanted to sleep. I get it. I totally understand it.
Yeah.
J-Lo want to be out and about, but he want to sleep. I mean, but yeah, you got to listen when the lady talks.
He showed up.
He showed
up, and you're going to judge him for being upset.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much as far as that's concerned. We just got a TV spot on this, but I will add, it is always fun to see Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. That's another film. June is shaping up to be a ridiculous month between Transformers and Flash.
Did you see the new announcement today, though, about John Wick? Where they say that...
Oh, yeah, the longest in the history of the franchise. My goodness, this is a wonderful year for action-adventure movies.
Yeah, man, this is just... I can't... I'm ready, man. I live 5 minutes from a movie theater. I have some movie theater gift cards that my mother got me for Christmas, and they're going to be gone in like a week because I'm just going to be fucking... Like, this year, man, a lot of good... And some of these aren't going to be good, but the fact is, I think there's going to be a lot of good franchise stuff. A lot of exciting stuff.
Yep.
And we'll cover a lot of it on the main feed. Some of it we'll cover on Patreon, and some of it we won't cover at all because some of it we don't need to cover. I mean, no one needs us to talk about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
No, God, no, not in the slightest. But yeah, the next time you'll hear us on this feed will be Quantum Mania, the recap, as this is the week that hashtag Kang Gang is in full force. Ant-Man versus Kang. Cassie, Hope, Hank, Jen. Oh my goodness. It's going to be very exciting. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to being with you all too. And we got a couple of good guests for it too. So it should be fun. Jay Christie, pleasure as always doing this with you. Where can
you can follow me on Twitter at Jay Christie and listen to my other podcast, Love It First Psych, where me and Andre Barrera are watching the show Psych. We just started this week. The second episode will be up today.
Don't get psyched out, but listen to
correct.
Psych. Yes, and you can follow me on the Twitter at AnthonyCanton_3. Follow the show at MC University Pod. Same on Instagram. Also YouTube. Check the YouTube channel for any videos that we have on this content. We'll be continuing to try and put a few more of these up as we go. Appreciate everybody for listening and supporting, and the Patreon as well. For Jake Christie, I am Anthony Canton III. This has been Marvel Cinematic University, and we will talk to you next time.